In the previous video, I introduced the basic concepts of timeline effects and the general workflow. The first timeline effects tool we will look at is text for 2D title creation. In the sequence, we need to create an animated title that says Zone 1. In the previous video, you saw how the timeline effects could be added to a segment or gap segment. When it comes to titling, I normally use gap effects above the edit so we can adjust the length of the title as well as fade it in and out. You can start off by selecting the segment you want the title to go over. Move the focus point up to the next video track. If you don't have another video track, simply click the Video Plus button to create a new one. Pressing the keyboard shortcut Shift-V will add cuts to the gap segment to match the selected segment below. Let's right-click on the gap segment and select Add Effect. In the Effects ribbon, click on Text, and the timeline text effects will be applied to the gap effect. In the Effects mini toolbar, you have a few options to create text quickly without going into the editor. For example, you can click New Layer, and in the text layer, you can type your text, Zone 1. In the middle of the Effects mini toolbar, you have access to a list of sub-menus such as Text Basics, Layer Axis for positioning, Fill with underline, and Outline with shadow. Going back to basics, you can change the font, size, kerning, and alignment. Now the text layer in this menu has two modes, Move and Edit. When you move the text using the Layer Axis menu, you need to be in Move mode. When you create or edit text, you need to be in Edit mode. The text box will not appear at first, but if you start typing, the text box will become active. As you move the positioner again, the mode switches back to Move mode. We'll come back to these modes again shortly. Now let's go into the text editor and look at the tools in detail. The text editor is divided up into 4 sections. Starting on the left, you have all the color attributes such as text color, outline, and shadow. The next section deals with the font and paragraph options. The third section is the character channels and text path tools. These 3 sections will always be displayed in the interface. The fourth section is switchable, but the default menu is Axis. Axis refers to an object's position within the image. But in terms of transformations, you can apply positioning to the entire text layer or individual characters. So regarding the overall function of text and creating titles, the text tool uses layers like Photoshop. You can have as many text layers as you want, but for now we'll keep it simple. If you remember in the Effects mini toolbar, I showed you 2 modes for a text layer. This was Edit and Move. The mode of the text layer is shown at the bottom left corner of the screen. Pressing Escape will allow you to switch between the 2 modes quickly. Remember that to edit the text, you need to be in Edit mode, and to move the text, you need to be in Move mode. So to change any properties of the text in Edit mode, you need to select the characters to be affected. You can adjust parameters such as font size, kerning, paragraph alignment, and more. To change the font, click on the Font Names box. This will open up Smoke's file browser. If you only see font titles, switch to the font thumbnails by clicking on the button at the top left of the screen. If your thumbnails appear to be grey, simply click on the Generate Proxy button and Smoke will create the font previews for you. Smoke supports a variety of different fonts. You can choose the font type in the pull-down menu, but I'll choose Auto to show all the files in the current folder. When Smoke is installed, it installs some default fonts, but you can access your system fonts by clicking on the System Fonts folder. One useful point worth remembering is that Smoke does not require you to install the font into the Mac OS Fonts folder in order to use it, so you don't have to have thousands of fonts installed just to access them. simply select the font you want and press the load button to return back to the text editor. Now let's do a quick animation to add a bit of movement to this title. Ensure that you press Escape to return back to Move mode. Turn Auto Key on. You might know this better as Auto Keyframe. Go to the beginning of the segment and position the text at the top of the screen. Go to the last frame and position the text at the bottom of the screen. Turn Auto Key off. When you scrub the time bar, you can see the vertical movement you have created. We'll be covering more animation in a later video. Press Exit to return back to the sequence. To conclude this video, navigate the positioner to the beginning of the gap effect by pressing the up arrow keyboard shortcut. Press Shift-Command-A to deselect everything. Click on the Transition button and add a dissolve to the beginning of the gap effect to fade the title in. You can also add a dissolve by pressing Command-T. The same can be done at the end of the gap segment. Press the down arrow keyboard shortcut to move to the end of the gap effect. Press Command-T to fade the title out. You can scrub through the title to preview it. To render the result, hold down Command and select the gap effect and the two dissolves. Press the Render button or press / to start the render. Once Smoke has processed the selection, you will be able to play back the final result. In the next video, we'll cover speed changes using Smoke's Time Warp tool.